Hello, welcome back to Reading with Mo, and welcome to my June wrap up. Today I am going to be sharing with you guys all the books that I finished or at least attempted to read in the month of June, and there's quite a few. I feel like my Reading with Mo is definitely back. I am not in a reading slump right now, which is great. I love that. Right now, I feel like I don't have enough time to read. All I want to do is read, but unfortunately, I have other life responsibilities. But you wouldn't know it from the amount of books I'm still about to talk to you guys today. There are 12 books that I completed in the month of June. Plus, we have 3 DNFs, so we have a lot to talk about, so let's just get straight into the books now. But first, I just want to share a few stats with you guys. So I want to share a few stats on the formats of how I read my books this year, or this month. I read 2 ebooks, which is definitely high for me because I rarely read ebooks, but I think because I have a lot of free time or downtime when I'm at work now, that I would like to probably start incorporating more ebooks. They're just more convenient for me in between clients to be able to just read a few pages. So I'm probably going to be incorporating more ebooks in my future reading plans. And I listened to 8 audiobooks. I do a lot of driving and cleaning, and that is my time to listen to audiobooks. I can listen to at least minimum an hour a day, but some days it's even more than that, like 2 to 3 hours of an audiobook. So that is the only way I'm going to hit my Goodreads goal this year. And then a number that I'm kind of sad is pretty low is I read 2 physical books off my shelves. I'm really trying to get my physical TBR down, so that number needs to be a lot higher. One of the books that I read physically too, I actually listened to the audiobook at the same time. Every once in a while I like to do that. If I have access through Libby to an audiobook that I already have on my shelf. Sometimes to help me hold my attention while I'm sitting down, I will do the audiobook and the physical book at the same time. I'm thinking how I want to format this wrap up, at least we'll see how it goes, is I want to start off with the books I liked least. That way we can end on a high note with the books that I enjoyed the most. So might as well start with the DNFs because those I don't rate, but because I didn't finish it, most likely their rating would be a 1 or 2 stars. First up, we have Lore of the Wilds by Annalise Brana. This is the first book in what I believe is a duology. Correct me if I'm wrong. It is a YA fantasy, romantasy book. I listened to the first 10% of the audiobook on Libby during my 24-hour reading vlog, so you can see my live reaction to it there. I really wanted to love this book so much, especially because I believe it's Fairy Loot that's coming out with the sequel it has come out with both of them in a very beautiful edition. But I was making myself make sure it was a book I enjoyed before I forked out the money for a special edition, which was very smart on my end because this book does not have a high rating on Goodreads, but I still went into it hoping for the best, but unfortunately it just wasn't for me. Already it's gonna be less likely that I'm gonna like it because it's young adult. Also, I'm kind of figuring out, you'll see as I go through all the books that I read this month, I just don't know if romantasy is for me. I'm really trying to make it, but I don't know. I just feel like it's just not my cup of tea, or at least even if I can enjoy it and appreciate it, it's not something I ever really find myself gravitating to or loving. Also, I'm feeling that way with books about fae. I feel like I'm going to finish the ACOTAR series, and then after that, I might just give up because I haven't read anything so far that I've loved. But we'll see. I can always find the book that proves me wrong. But unfortunately, this was not it. And I really wanted it to enjoy it. So like I mentioned, I only listened to the first 10%, which with audiobooks, I kind of force myself to listen to at least 10% before I count it as a DNF. By 10% in, if you're not vibing with the audiobook, there's no point in continuing on. The chances are very low that your opinions or feelings may change. The book starts out following our main character. She's 21-year-old Laure Alameyu. To be honest, I thought she was much younger when I read the book, but her village is threatened so she makes this deal with the Fae Lord to go and categorize this library that apparently a Fae can't go into, but maybe but a mortal could. I don't know. I had high hopes because it was a book kind of centered around a library as well, so I thought that could be interesting, but within that 10%, it just did not hook me. And if you didn't hook me in 10%, unfortunately, there's just way too many other books that I am really excited to get to, and I DNF this one. The Influencers by Anna Marie McLemore was another DNF for me. I got 10% on this one. This one was The issue I had with this book is there's just way too many perspectives or way too many characters, because we're following this group of sisters whose mom is like a super big influencer, and the stepdad, I believe it was, that turned up murdered, and everyone's just trying to figure out who it is. But there's also this like other detached voice that's like supposed to be this voice of like all the people on social media, and I just feel like the book was trying to do a lot. And the main thing, and it might be kind of petty, was I hated how the author named the sisters. Each of the sisters is named a month, and you know how confusing that is, especially when you're listening to an audiobook, to try to remember which sister is which and which month goes to which sister. Like there was two that were twins, and then there was like an older one and a younger one, I think. There may have even been a fifth one. I don't even remember at this point. But just to keep the track of like who was who and the order of them, and obviously like the chronological order of the months is not the does not go with the chronological ages of the daughters. And just because of that, I already knew I probably wasn't going to continue on. But I did listen to it just to see. I feel like if they made this into a movie, it could be like a fun little hour and a half, not take itself too seriously movie that would be enjoyable. And then you forget about it later. But this is my second book by Anna Marie McLemore. I also read Wild Beauty years ago, and I remember thinking that book was okay, but I wasn't blown away by it. I ended up looking up the ending for the book because, I tried to look up the ending just because I was kind of like, I want to just know the end, like who killed the stepfather. I don't really need to listen to the whole audiobook, just like tell me. But I think at the time there weren't any spoiler reviews on Goodreads that talked about who was the murderer. But yeah, I just didn't care enough to actually listen to a full audiobook just to find that out. Then lastly, for the books that I DNF'd, we have Silver Elite by Danny Francis. This book for me was mainly because of all the hype that I've seen going around on social media, Booktok and Bookstagram. Everybody is talking about this book, posting about this book, and I wanted to be in and know, like, is this for me or not? And to be honest, this is a DNF, but it's a soft DNF. I could potentially be open to reading it in the future, but I think right now, a mix of just being burnt out on reading fantasy/romantasy books that I don't end up loving, and the fact that this is going to be like a whole series, and I don't want to read the first one and then have to wait for the next ones to come out. I had watched somebody else giving a review on this book, and they said there was going to be like 6 books coming out. But when I looked at it online, I seen there's only 3. But even then, like, this is a series that's going to be going on for years. So I'd rather wait until the series is completed, see what the general consensus is, if it was worth investing the time reading all 3 books to get to the end, and then I'll decide. Maybe at that point I'll go back and read them if I feel like the payoff is worth the time invested. Does that make sense? I think so. So I didn't DNF this book because I thought like the writing was horrible and terrible or anything like that. I'm not like bashing the book per se. I thought that the first 10% was interesting enough, although like I said, this is a romantasy, and I feel like I am just not really gelling with this genre, at least at the moment. So I didn't want to force myself to read it, give it a 3-star rating, and then not continue. And I'll just like wait and see if a better opportunity comes up later on for me to read this book. On to my 2-star reads. The first one we have is Water Moon. This is one of the books that I actually had a physical copy of that I read, and that was by Samantha Sato Yambao. I've had this book, I think, for like 5 months. I've had this book a long time. I have picked up and put this book down way too many times. I should have given up. I should have DNF'd this book. 2-star books means I really would rather just have my time back because I would rather try my chances with a book that I would be more likely to like. This book, it has an interesting premise. It takes place in a book. So it starts off in a pawn shop where there's a father and daughter duo. And in this pawn shop, it has some like magical realism elements. People can pawn their regrets off in this shop. And I thought that was such an interesting premise. And like when we got glimpses of that part of the story, which were very minimal, I really enjoyed that. But almost immediately, like it's off onto an adventure because her dad has been kidnapped or disappeared or ran away or something. She doesn't really know. And she goes on this quest with another guy. And I just felt like I didn't care. I didn't care about what happened to the characters. It just seemed like there was just like a lot of things that were convenient, and then there was a lot of just running around and from thing to thing. I think a lot of the concepts were cool. Like if I were to see this on a screen. Like, it could be done very well, just the visual aspect of it, the potential it has there. And I'm just really sad that I gave this a 2-star rating, because I'm not going to keep it on my shelves, because it's such a beautiful book. Even underneath the dust jacket, this is what it looks like. It's so beautiful. But yeah, I will be selling this book at some point. I used to sell the books I don't like to a local used bookstore. I need to see if there's one like convenient enough around me that would make it worth it to go to. But if not, I also do sell my books sometimes online. So I need to get like my Depop or Mercari book shop set back up now that I'm more settled, and I can use that to hopefully let people purchase these books that I don't enjoy that may enjoy them more than I did. And I can recoup some of my financial losses, because I bought that book like almost right when it came out, so it was not cheap. The other book I gave a 2-star rating to was Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. I fell into the Instagram influenced me hype of reading the Fourth Wing books. At first I wasn't going to, but then I read the first one because I wanted to see what it was all about, and I feel like everybody and their mom is loving this book, talking about this series, and I wanted to be a part of the conversation. So I went in with very low expectations though, because especially at the time that I read Fourth Wing, which was last year, I think this was like my first, or if not one of like a very, very early on attempt to read a romantasy book. And I went in with such low expectations that I actually really enjoyed Fourth Wing. I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was fast paced and it kept my attention. But then I went into Iron Flame and it went downhill from there. Unfortunately, I don't know if it was me or the book. It could have been maybe me. Maybe I shouldn't have done it on audiobook. It took me so long to listen to the audiobook because every time I listened to it, I just wanted to listen to something else. So it took me forever to power through. And that's exactly what I did. I powered through, and I probably should have just threw the towel in much earlier and spent that time listening to something else that I would enjoy more. I just didn't really care what was happening. And I feel like there was a lot of times because I didn't care, I was zoning out. And it's like I could zone back in and still like get the gist of what was happening. Maybe I should have read it physically, but I don't even know if I had read it physically, if it would have made that much of a difference, to be honest. I feel like there's a lot of characters, and maybe I should have listened to like a recap of the first book, just so like some of the more minor characters, I could have been reminded of who they were, and maybe I could have cared about them more. But yeah, this one unfortunately wasn't for me, and I'm not going to be continuing on with the series. But if the series, as I heard, is being adapted for TV, I would give that a try. But I do not think I'm going to be reading all of 5, 6 books, something like that are planned to make up the whole Fourth Wing series. Now let's get into the 3-star ratings. So we're finally seeing some improvement. My 3-star rating to me is, this was a good book. I don't regret the time that I spent reading it. Am I going to remember it? It's probably not going to be that memorable to me, to be honest, but the book was good enough to finish it without hating it. So let's get into the 3-star reads. The first one we have is Dream Count by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is the 3rd book by this author that I have picked up. I read Americana, thought it was okay, and I read the Half of Yellow Sun, I believe it was called, and I enjoyed that one a lot more. This book I just thought once again was okay, and after I read it, I went back on to look up some more information on Goodreads about the book, and it looks like the book is actually more so supposed to be like a novella. We're following the story of 4 different women who all have Nigerian backgrounds. And one of the women actually, I forget which one now. It doesn't really matter which one specifically, but one of them, it was actually already like a published short story, and then it was included in this book, but all of them are intertwined together. We have 4 different women. One of them is Shamaka. She's a Nigerian traveler writer living in America. And then we have Zikora, who is her best friend, who's a lawyer. We have Omelagor, Shamaka's bold, outspoken cousin, who is a financial powerhouse in Nigeria. And then we have Kariatsu, who is Shamaka's housekeeper and is raising her daughter in America. Out of the characters that I read about, I found Shamaka and which other one? Kariatsu, the housekeeper, the most interesting to read the perspectives of. The other 2, I struggled really remembering that much about their stories at this moment, unfortunately. I feel like there's parts I kind of tuned out a little bit of, not gonna lie. I can see what she was trying to accomplish here and what she was doing. I just don't necessarily feel like it was executed that well. Once I found out that some of this was already from like a previously published short story, it kind of just like made sense more so the way the book was structured and written. All of these women have pretty bad to, if not toxic, relationships with men. And I feel like because all of them were experiencing that, or just like having unhealthy boundaries or just unhealthy mindsets going into relationships, I just didn't really like being in that headspace when every single character was kind of in not the greatest of situations. And I just kind of got tiring after a while when it seemed like that was the issue with all of the women. And it's not like I don't feel like that's not justified. Like there are plenty of people who are in those kind of situations. But when it was story after story after story, it just kind of left you more a little bit drained, I guess. I don't know any other way to put it. This book was definitely a slow burn. So if you're into that, then I could see potentially why someone may enjoy this more than I did. Next, we have One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. This was actually our book club pick for the month of June. For the Book and Sip Club for South Florida, the majority book that won the vote for this month was One Italian Summer. And most people felt similarly about this book. They either did not like it or they thought it was just okay. I fell into the it's just okay category. This book follows our main character. Her name's Carol, and her mom recently died. So I was expecting that this book was going to be very sad, maybe cry, but no, most people, including myself, did not like the main character. She came off very selfish, and it's understandable. Like, she's going through grief. She's just lost her mom, and she's going to Italy for the summer because her and her mom both had a trip plan that they're going to go on to once, but then fortunately her mom passes away before they're able to go on the trip. And at this time, she's also questioning if she is happy in her marriage and if she wants to stay with her husband or not. But as far as what we're shown in the book, it seems like he's a great husband and like they're doing okay. And it just seemed like a lot of decisions that the main character made were very selfish. But like I said, it's kind of given a pass, I guess, because she is going through this hard time of life. But I remember one part of the book where she was like, how are you supposed to love your husband if you're in love, the love of your life is your, or like if the love of your life is your mom, then what does that make your husband? And I feel like that's just a very unhealthy attachment level there. So yeah, I just thought the book was okay. Mainly what I enjoyed about it was the Italian setting. Made me definitely want to travel there. All the descriptions of the food and the adventures and the different islands and stuff she goes on are really cool. But what ends up happening in Italy is she sees her mom there, but not her mom the age that she was. It was her mom, I think when she was about like the same age as her, around like early 30s, late 20s. I can't forget exactly the age. So yeah, she doesn't know what's happening, how this could be possible, but she's able to use this time to kind of see what her mom was like during this stage of her life. I thought it was an interesting concept, but overall, I just thought the book was okay. And last, for the 3-star reads, we have With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. I listened to this one on audiobook, and this is Riley Sager's newest release. And I ended up giving this book a 3-star rating. This book is a locked room mystery. We are following, I believe in like the 1940s. Yeah, 1940s. We're following, our main character is Anna Matheson, but she's on this train with 6 people who destroyed her family, and they all have a connection somehow to her and to each other as well, in something that they were involved with. They are on a 14-hour overnight train ride from Philadelphia to Chicago. She is planning on bringing these people to justice, but someone ends up murdered almost immediately on this train ride. And from there, we go on the adventure of trying to figure out what's happening as people kind of drop off one by one. I feel like this book had a good amount of twists and turns, but overall, it wasn't a super memorable mystery to me. I feel like I just read Riley Sager's books to know what they're about, to see. I feel like I've never really given one a super high rating, but I still continue to read them. I like to judge them for myself because I know they are talked about a lot on BookTube, so I like to make my own opinions before I start seeing everybody else reading them and sharing their thoughts as well. I'm definitely going to continue to read Riley Sager's books. They're very easy to listen to and they're not unenjoyable. Finally, onto some better books we're at now, to the 4-star book ratings. The first one is The Lion Women of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. This book, I listened to the audiobook coming off of a couple of DNFs. And this one solidified that I do like audiobooks still, but they just have to be great books in the first place. And so this one is a historical fiction book. It takes place in the 50s in Tehran, and we're following our two main characters who are both around similar age, two young girls when the book starts out, and they kind of come from different backgrounds as far as like class wise, but one of them, her class kind of fluctuates throughout the book, and that also has repercussions into their friendship over the following decades. I previously read The Stationery Shop by this author, and I really loved that book, and I feel like I love this one not as much. I think I like The Stationery Shop a little bit more, but this book was very good. This book was not a 5-star read, but it was very close. As someone who's not very familiar with the war and politics and stuff that goes on that or have gone on in Tehran, this was very interesting to read because I was able to read about something I was not familiar with. The next 4-star book we have is Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. And like I was mentioning earlier in the video, romantasy I feel like is one that a genre I'm still very iffy on, but I did enjoy this one. I listened to it in an audiobook, and I'm pretty sure I am going to be continuing on with the series. The realm that all of this is set in is being plagued by these monsters. The romance trope that we are following is enemies to lovers. We're following our main character, who is a princess who nobody really expected much of, but because of certain circumstances and things that happen, she ends up becoming the princess who has to marry the prince that she was not destined to marry. It was supposed to be that her sister was supposed to marry him. Do I think this was the greatest book ever? No, but I enjoyed my time with it, and I definitely want to continue on with the series. There was enough action and enough for me to actually care about what was happening to the characters for me to enjoy this book and to want to continue on. Next, we have another book that's the first in a series. I did attempt a lot of firsts in series this last month, and that's A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. This is the first book in the, as far as I know, duology. The second book, A Theory of Dreaming, is coming out in the month of July. This is a young adult book where we're following our main character, Effie. She lives in this world where there was this thing called the drowning that flooded a lot of the area, and now it's kind of being threatened again that the waters are rising and can flood the south of their continent where they live at. She has just finished high school and she's in her first year of college. She's studying to be an architect. She really wants to get into literature though, but in this world, women aren't allowed to study literature in college, so she goes to the most like prestigious thing that's available to her, and that's architecture, where she ends up getting this winning this assignment to go and be the person to redesign this mansion, that's crumbling mansion, where one of the most well-known authors of their time, Meriden, he used to live, and now it's his son that's living there. And while she's there, she also is there with his son and with another student, a literature student, who's like working on his thesis while he's living there. And I don't want to say too much more without giving it away, but I really did enjoy this book. I went in hoping I would like it, but being a little bit iffy because with fantasy lately, I wouldn't necessarily say this is like super romantasy, but there is a romantic element plot in this book. I enjoyed it because it wasn't just so focused on that, and I was satisfied with how the book ended. I'm very interested in seeing how the characters develop further in the next book. Last but not least, we have The Great Man, and this was written by Kyra Davis Lurie, and this is the only book that I gave a 5-star rating to this month. I am just glad that I actually had at least one 5-star rating. If that could happen every month, that would be great. I really enjoyed this book. I read this as an ebook, checked out from Libby on my phone, and this book is a retelling of The Great Gatsby, but set during the 1940s, I believe was the year that it was set. Yes, 1945. This book takes place in 1945 in Los Angeles in the Sugar Hill area, and we're following the story of the Black elite. We are following our main character, Charles. He's just come back as a veteran from the war. He moved from the South to Los Angeles because of an incident that happened when he came back. And he's had a connection in LA with his cousin who married someone and is living out there currently. He ends up getting a job there, but what's happening at the same time, there's a lot of tension going on in the neighborhood because of a certain law that is attached to their housing. Potentially all of them could have their housing forcibly taken from them. He meets this guy who's called James Mann. He also has the nickname of Reaper, and they have an interesting dynamic together. He's the Jay Gatsby of this book, and I really enjoyed this book. I will read anything else that Kyra writes. I love when people can do a retelling of a classic in a way that spins it and makes it their own and interesting. And I just really love this book. I am going to be purchasing it for sure so I can keep it on my shelves and reread it again eventually. I definitely see this book as being in my top 10 of the year, and I'm just hoping that I can at least get to 10 5-star reads so I have them to talk to you guys about at the end of the year. So those are all the books that I finished in the month of June. There's 2 other books that I started that I didn't finish, so I'll be definitely talking about those in my July wrap up. And those are The Woman in the Wallpaper and Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. I was really trying to finish both of those so that I could talk about them in this video, but unfortunately I was not able to finish them before the month ended. And I actually started both of those books, I believe, during my 24-hour reading vlog I mentioned, where I just started way too many books at one time. So I have a backlog that I'm working on of getting through those books as well. That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this look into everything that I read in June. Let me know if you guys have any standout books that you read last month, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.